Welcome to the Better Than Success podcast, the podcast for first-generation entrepreneurs and key members of small teams. The podcast dedicated to helping leaders win in every way possible. The podcast that talks leadership, systems, investing, entrepreneurship, teamwork, branding, marketing, and much more. And now your host, entrepreneur, author, real estate investor, and founder of Better Than Success, Nicole Purvey. Okay, so, yes, 6 books, Ash Cash. Please make sure you get his book. His amazing wife, Amina, she's in the back selling his book. Please make sure you get a copy of his book, his books, because he's out here doing something that no one else cares to do, and that is educate our people on financial principles that's really going to elevate us and take us to the next level. So please make sure you get copies of his books. So with that being said, and then also, I'm sorry, super important, two other people that I need to highlight, and that is our videographer, Isaiah Nathaniel from Mad Optics. He just comes through in the clutch for so many things. I'm super duper duper thankful for you. Thank you. He knows I'm like extra going in because he like really come through on a favor for us as it pertains to Philly Real Estate Week. And he was just like, oh, okay. He knows it's for the betterment of our culture. And then the other person I want to say thank you to is Bare Hands, Ryan Wallace. They do all our catering. Y'all know this food was bomb.com. They did the food for all of the events that we do at the house. When we've had our private dinners, the amazing macaroni and cheese. If you've never had his macaroni and cheese, put in an order for put in an order for one dish. You put in an order for one dish. Is the best macaroni. Listen, I need to tell y'all this. I don't even like macaroni and cheese in general. Like, I just have this new thing where I don't like cheese at all. But his macaroni and cheese, it will seriously, real life change your life. So please, make sure you use them for your catering. He's amazing. He did all this without a kitchen here. You know what he's doing. Okay, so I'm going to read off Ash's bio, and we're going to get started on this interview. It don't want to stand up. You're right. I'm going to try one more time. Thank you. You just want to get on camera. Okay. Ash Exantis, a.k.a. Ash Cash, is a 15-year banking executive, personal finance expert, motivational speaker, and the author of 6 books, including 3 Amazon.com bestsellers. He is head of financial education and financial empowerment coach at Bank Mobile, the largest and fastest growing digital bank in the country, and a digital app that provides a financially empowering banking experience to 2 million customers. He is also a financial teacher as well as a leadership council member of the World of Money Financial Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to empower youth with an immersive financial and technology education, creating financially responsible adults one child at a time. Ash has established himself as a thought leader and trusted voice with corporate America, colleges, churches, and community-based organizations. Through his message of fiscal responsibility, entrepreneurship, and wealth empowerment, he has become a regular speaker at national conferences across the country. Ash has been featured on popular national media outlets such as CNN, The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, American Banker, CNBC, TheStreet.com, Black Enterprise, Essence Magazine, Ebony, BET, Pix11, Morning News, and countless others. Go on, black man. He is the host of his own radio show titled The Ash Cash Show, which airs on WHCR 90.3 FM New York with a current reach of 2.2 million listeners. Above all of his credentials, accolades, and titles, Ash is simply known for helping people maximize their full potential. He thoroughly enjoys his life in metropolitan New York area, where he resides with his wife and 2 children. You can also read more about Ash by visiting IamAshCash.com. Welcome to the show, Ash. Thank you. Here you are, sir. Is it turned on? Yes, there you
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming all the way from New York.
Yes, NYC.
Thank you. So I just read off your bio. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself in your own words?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's raining, but you guys come out for this wonderful event. I am, as the bio mentioned, 15-year banking professional, but above all that, I'm just a kid from the projects, man. I grew up in Harlem, New York, in the St. Nicholas projects, 129th Street, 8th Avenue. Didn't really know what I was going to do with my life, and just like anybody growing up in the inner city neighborhood, got into a lot of trouble, didn't really kind of know my way. By the grace of God, by, grinding, I've always been an entrepreneur, packing bags at the local supermarket, selling T-shirts. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I had an opportunity, becoming a teller at a bank. And so I took that opportunity and I was like, all right, let me just, do this, so I can, stay out of the streets, not get in trouble. And I realized that I was actually really good at banking. Like, I really love money. I mean, who doesn't love money? And so I was able to, at an early age, do a lot of wonderful things in banking. And so I've done everything you could name of. I started out as a teller. I was a personal banker. I was a branch manager. I did private banking for 2 years, which means that I was managing money for people who were high net worth. So, clients who had $250,000 or more in investable assets. My largest customer was worth $22 million. I was the CEO of a credit union back in Queens. And then I just realized that, I wasn't doing enough for my community, right? And so, please forgive me. I wrote the 444 book, so I'm going to quote Jay-Z a lot. And so Jay once said, there's much bigger issues in the world I know, but I first had to take care of the world I know. And that's what happened. I was working in banking. I'm dealing with a lot of these high net worth individuals who I'm not their only banker. They actually have like a team of people. And I'm like, they don't really need me, right? But somebody who is from the projects, who understands the inner city, and not just the inner city, but just understanding people who are the underdogs, people who don't have advocates. I said to myself that my call in life is to really educate people who don't have, people advocating for them. And so it started out, I started out volunteering at inner city schools, churches, and just talking about money, right? But just not the practical things about money, really your mindset, because that's all that matters. So I could tell you about budgeting, I could tell you everything you need to know about managing money, but if you don't have the proper mindset, it's not going to matter. And so that's what I do. I teach people about how to change their mindset. Started out doing it just for the love, didn't realize that you could actually make good money doing it. And so I wrote my first book in 2009. And the book, did well. It took me all over the place, and that's how I started my career as an author, my career as a speaker, my career as an educator, and now we're 6 books later, and I'm still doing the same thing, just really, educating people on how to change their mindset to manage their money better, but not just managing money for the sake of managing money, but how do you live the life that you deserve? How do you build generational wealth? How do you pass down, wealth to the next generation so that they don't, we're not recycling struggle. And so that's what I do.
I love it. Oh, I have so many questions. Yeah. Okay, so all right, let's go back. So you worked at a bank, you moved up, and then in 2009 you wrote your first book. Yes. Let's talk about that experience, right? What made you so you said you saw some things that made you write the book, but like what made you finally make the decision? And then I know when you work in finance, there's a lot of things that you can't do. Mm-hmm. How did you manage to navigate that? Like, did you quit your job at that time? Like, talk about that experience.
No, that's great. So at the time, I was actually working for one of the largest financial institutions in the world, J.P. Chase. And luckily, so I got the name Ash Cash as a kid because I was always negotiating, talking to people about money. And so my real name is Ash Exantis. And so, in fact, when I wrote my first book, I was 2 people. I couldn't be Ash Exantis and write this book. And that's the reason why I actually wrote the book as Ash Cash.
So your job didn't even know?
No.
Okay, so it was like a big secret.
Yeah, so I was living a double life. Clark Kent and Superman, right?
Yes,
so Clark Kent was during the day, and then Superman, take off the cape, Superman's alive. So yeah, so the job didn't know, and so I wrote the book. In fact, when I first wrote the book, my face wasn't on the cover. It was just it was just my name and the number 10. It was Mind Right, Money Right, 10 Laws of Financial Freedom. And then so after when I proved the concept, when I realized that I could actually make money doing this, and that I'm not going to be beholden to a job anymore. 2009, so 2 years later, I revised the cover, and then I finally put my face on the cover, and I just came out of hiding. but
Ash Cash is me.
Yeah, it's me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and so that the process was really a grind, right? Because at the time I had opened a brand new branch from ground up for J.P. Morgan Chase right in the Bronx at the Co-op City area. It was an $8 million project, so it was a lot of hours that I had to put in. And so literally I would leave the house early, and if you guys remember, that's around the time where Blackberries were in. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote most of the book on my BlackBerry. I would literally drive to the parking lot and would sit in the parking lot before the branch opens and type. Then when the branch was open, was Ash Exantis, and then afterwards I became Ash Cash again. So it took me about 8 months to write the first book, and I realized, and the only reason I wrote the book, because I wasn't a writer actually, and the only reason I wrote the book was because when people started to, I used to volunteer a lot, and when people started to ask me, hey, can you come speak at whatever place, I would always just say yes and just do it for free, honestly. And then one day somebody was like, yo, how much do you charge? And I was like, charge? You could charge to get to do this? And then so I wound up charging my first speaking gig, and then I started looking into it, and I'm realizing that people actually get paid to speak. And one person, one of the OGs in the speaking game was like, yo, if you had a book, you could charge more. I was like, word? So I wrote a book. You know what I'm saying? And then
say no more, fam.
Yeah, say no more, fam. We lit. We gonna do it. And so I wrote the first book, and lo and behold, I started to get a lot of media attention, so like the Black Enterprises, the Ebony magazines, the Essence, the Hot 97s, because it's one thing to be like, hey, you have this banker who wrote or you have this banker teaching about financial education, like that's not unique. But if you're like the author of Mind Right Money, it just sounds better, right. And so I started to get booked more, and that's when I started to take it a little serious and become a full-time entrepreneur.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about the book, that first book. Yeah. You had 10 financial principles. What were they inspired by? What was I know the motivation was that you wanted a book, but the content for the book. Yeah,
so one of the things that I realized in working in the banking world was that there's a misconception about money. That the guy who has the Mercedes, or the woman who has the fur, or the person who quote unquote looks successful is not always the person that is successful. And on the flip side, I remember, I had a client, he was worth $2 million. And if he walked into this room right now, you probably think he's part of the cleanup staff. Promise you, right? Like you wouldn't even pay him any attention, because his shirts was always dingy. His pants weren't the newest pants. His shoes were regular. But he had a lot of money. And so I started to survey or look at those who had money and those who didn't have money. And I realized that, money was a mindset, and that people who have money have a certain mindset. Like all of my wealthy clients had a mindset. It wasn't to say that I didn't have wealthy clients who had the expensive stuff. I had a lot of clients who had the expensive stuff, but for some reason, growing up in the hood or in the inner city, when you don't have money, you just immediately associate stuff with wealth and no stuff, non-wealth, which it was the opposite. And so I started looking for parallels, like what are the things that wealthy people have, in common. And I wanted to write a book to teach people, how do you change your mindset in order to get your finances right. And the one thing that was that I realized, that it was a lot of mindset things that related to like positive thinking, right? Law of attraction stuff, like things that being determined. Like, it wasn't only the practical things. Yeah, you need the budget. Yeah, you need to change your relationship with money. You have to do all of those things. But there were other mental things that you need to do. Your habits, your rituals will determine whether you're successful or not. And so, I was able to come up with 10 laws of financial freedom. Like, if you follow these laws, that you would be on your way to financial freedom. And that's what I wanted to highlight, because I'm a fan of, Think and Grow Rich. I'm a fan of Richest Man in Babylon. And these books were books that talked about the mental aspect, the spiritual aspect of money. And I wanted to write an updated version where I give, stories of people we can relate to. And so I talk about, Jay-Z, Oprah, Tyler Perry, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Barack Obama. Like, these are all the examples that I used in the book to really illustrate, these are their stories, but this is how it ties to your financial freedom.
I love it. I want to move on, but I do want you to tell us one principle. You said the positive thinking.
Yes.
Give us another principle.
Yeah, I mean, I would say change your relationship with money. I think that's the biggest law that I, even today, think it's the most powerful, because we're taught that we need to work hard for money, and those who are wealthy do not work hard for money. They make money work hard for them. They change their relationship with money. Instead of money being your employer, you need to make sure that it is your employee. And so that is the biggest law that people need to understand, because, and especially like we're in a room full of people who do real estate, right? And so understanding that the grind and the hustle of doing real estate is going to get you money, but the goal isn't to always continue to grind and hustle. The goal is to say, what am I going to do with this money that's now going to make money work for me, right? And so when people think about real estate, I love real estate. Real estate saved my life, right? And so when I think about real estate, a lot of people think about the flipping and the wholesaling and things of that nature, which is awesome, because if you don't have money to start with, it's going to help you get money. Mm-hmm. But the game is buy and hold, right? Like, that's what's going to give you wealth, because now, as a homeowner, as somebody who owns property, I can live out my passion because I don't have to work. I have property that I have tenants that pay income, and so I know at bare minimum my necessities are taken care of. And so I think that is the law that everybody needs to know, that everybody needs to understand, that you need to change your relationship with money. Again, I grew up in the project, so I didn't have money. And so early on, I had to hustle, I had to grind in order to accumulate money. But once you accumulate the money, don't use that money to buy stuff, right? Use that money so that you could change the relationship and buy something that's going to give you income, and maybe use that income to buy the stuff. Don't buy stuff with the money that you have to work hard for. Use the money that you're working hard for to make, to change that relationship.
That's a really, really, really great model there. Really good model. I love that. So, okay, let's talk about, so you wrote this book. 2 years later, you end up leaving your job.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yep.
Tell us about that whole experience.
Man, so that was, it was the gift and the curse. And that's why I say, real estate saved my life. In fact, shout out to my wife in the back, because she's part of the story a lot. But we were making good money, right? And so when I decided to jump out, I did it cold turkey. I was just like, I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have anybody who knew about business, who could teach me about business. And so I just was going based on a feeling. And at the time, I had released the book. The book was getting some traction, making good money at the bank. But my mind said, man, imagine if you didn't have this job. Imagine if you had the freedom to really be Ash Cash full time. Imagine the money that you could make. Imagine, the dent that you could make in this world. And so I was just solely relying on the book and speaking engagements, and I quit my job. I walked in, I was like, that's it. I'm good. I'm done. I actually threw myself a retirement party. It was right. It was like I was right. I was 29. I was about to turn 30. If you follow me on Facebook, I still got the pictures up there as a reminder that don't be so full of yourself. But I had a retirement party. It was my 30th birthday and retiring out of from banking. And, for a few months, I did well. Like, I did really well. I was getting contracts. I was doing pretty well. But the one thing about, what I realized about the speaking game, about book game, is that it's a cycle, right? And I didn't know that. Nobody told me, And so I started making a lot of money. And then one day I'm just not, right? And so
I'm tired of looking at your face.
Right.
Like, oh, that's old.
They're like, oh, that's old, right? And so now I'm not making money. I'm still popular, right? Whatever that means, right? People are still booking me for stuff. I'm still doing, national interviews and things of that nature. But like, I'm not making enough money to maintain my lifestyle. And so right around that time, and this was one of the most embarrassing times in my life. My daughter was 2 years old, and literally, we had a home we had to short sell it. Right, it was about to go to foreclosure because we couldn't afford it anymore. We had to choose whether we were gonna eat, pay bills, things of that nature. And so one of the most embarrassing times in my life, sitting and just to give context, right? Think about it. My business is teaching people about money, right? And then I'm coming home. I'm driving. Get to my driveway, and I'm sitting there looking at a for sale sign. Right, I got my neighbors coming to me like, "Yo, Ash, what's up? Like, y'all just got here. Like, why y'all selling already?" Right, and like I remember one time, one of my neighbors was like, "Ash, man, I was looking at the foreclosure list, and I saw your house on there. Like, you good?" I'm like, "Word, it's on." Like I knew, but I'm like, "Word, it's on foreclosure." Yo, how that happen? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it was like one of the most embarrassing times for me, and so I had to go back to work, and so
you went back at work at a bank.
Yeah, okay. My resume was still good. I had high level positions within the bank, and swallowed my pride and was like, you remember that retirement party? Like, psych, right? Like, I'm back, right? And so I went back to work. But one of the best things that it taught me, and so my wife and I, we accidentally, got into sort of like renting out the place because the home that we had, 2-family home, my mother-in-law was living with us at the time, and so right when we're going through foreclosure, she, mother-in-law was like, "Listen, I need a place to live," and so she went, she moved out. And we thought we were gonna lose the house, so we packed up everything from the upstairs apartment. Went kind of consolidated, not knowing where we were gonna go. But then when I wound up going back to work and was making way more money than not way more, but I was making more money than before, and now I can afford the house. And then also one of the things that actually worked for us, because this was around 2007, 2008. No, we bought the house 2007, so it's like 2010. 2011, but there was Obama had the Making Home Affordable Act, right? And so we had purchased the house at a higher price because we bought it in 2007, right around the time before the bubble burst. Mm-hmm. So we overpaid for the house, and then so now the house is worth $200,000 less than what we paid for it, and so fast shout to President Obama, he had the Making Home Affordable Act, and so we did a loan modification. And we got forgiven for that $200,000, right? And so think about this. So now the property that my mortgage, what it was before, is $200,000 less, which is really affordable. Now I'm making more money. Now I have an extra apartment that's available. And so, we decided to rent out the apartment. And now, we changed our principles, or we changed our concept about money, right? And that's when I realized, like, bro, you should not be working hard for money. Figure out how do you flip it? How do you create a system that money works hard for you? And so from there, we've always been intrigued in real estate, and just realized that now at this new price point, our tenants are literally paying the mortgage, and now we could use our money to do other things and invest in other things, could continue to take more chances, and that's what we did, and that's why we're at a space where we're more comfortable now.
Yes,
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Okay, so are you working at a bank now?
So what I do is I create content, and so I work from home, but I do provide content for a digital bank, and I but they pay me to be Ash Cash.
Right. So okay, so the second time you went back to that job, how did you transition out of that?
Yeah, so the second time it was just being more calculated.
Okay.
And so a lot of times
You had a
people
do-over.
do-over, but you do it better this time, right?
Yes.
So the first time I did cold turkey, I was like, all right, that's it, I'm out, right?
I had no plan.
Yeah, no plan, no nothing. I'm just
It's gonna work.
I'm gonna
I did
jump.
that.
When they say jump and build your parachute on, don't do that. You're gonna fall. That's it. You're gonna die. Don't do that, right?
I did that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if it wasn't for my mom.
Yeah. I was like, oh, and then I hit the floor. But the second time around, it was just playing it more, calculating it. And one of the things I think that a lot of people, especially right now, because we live in this space where everybody's talking about being their own boss and entrepreneur and things of that nature, there's like this negative vibe or connotations on 9 to 5s. What we need to realize, if you do have a 9 to 5 and you're trying to start a business, stop looking at the 9 to 5 as something that's holding you back and realize that it's your investor. It's your first investor. It is investing in your business. Right, like get out of that thought process of I want to be my own boss, so I'm just gonna do it, and because struggle is real, right? Like when I had to go home and look at my wife, and even though she supported me and held me down, but black women, y'all got that side eye look, like yeah,
baby, I got your back.
Yeah, I got your back, and then you give you that look or whatever. So I had to deal with that. I have I have my daughter. My daughter's 2 years old, and I'm looking like, man, like I have this responsibility, and I can't manage my responsibility, and so that's real. And so, if you are in a situation where you have proven your concept, and listen, this 9 to 5 is holding me back, then fine. But don't just leave your 9 to 5 just for the sake of leaving your 9 to 5. And that's what we did. So, the second time around, the 9 to 5 was the investor, right? The 9 to 5 was what is going to allow us to, create more products, go have that cushion. And so it was sort of like easing into it. So while I was working at the bank, I was still, taking, speaking engagements. Luckily, I was working at the credit union now. And so the credit union, so I was the CEO of a credit union. The credit union's a little less strict than your corporate America. In fact, one of the reasons why I got the job, in the credit union was because they knew that I was Ash Cash. And it was like, you would bring sort of like this fresh vibe into the credit union world. Because if you know the credit union, it's usually like older people. And they were like, listen, if we get this young guy who, is on television and radio all the time, like we could really use that to kind of, push the credit union to the next level. And so I was able to do both. I was able to be a CEO of a credit union and create a speaking business and be able to sell books and write more books. And I think around that time I had written my third book, because I wrote a second book with my daughter called Taylor's Way, Life Lessons Through the Eyes of a 3-Year-Old, which was more like a motivational book. But in my third book, I wrote a book called What the FICO, which is the book I have here. I wrote What the FICO, 12 Steps to your repairing your credit. And that book kind of did well for me. And so I was kind of doing both. And then it just got to a point where I had to choose whether I was going to continue to do sort of like the banking stuff, or was I going to continue to build this business. But this time it was easier, right? Because we had income coming in from properties. And, we said we were making money from the business, and then now it made more sense. And then, I kind of like, jumped out and, made it happen.
I love it. I love it. You had a real life do-over.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I always tell a lot of, we work with a lot of new entrepreneurs, either through our digital marketing business or even through working with some of our real estate investors. And I say this not in a condescending way, like, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. But I don't mean it on some, I'm doing something so great and it's not for everybody. I mean it real life. You, first of all, you gotta be a little bit crazy.
Facts.
Second of all, you gotta make sure that you make that transition. And sometimes having a job is a really good thing. It's your first investor.
Absolutely. And one of the things, because Wallow said this earlier, right? He talked about, hiring the people that can do the things for you. And one of the things we need to realize is that there are going to be people who are entrepreneurs, but they're going to need support, right? And so if you got a 9 to 5 and your 9 to 5 is booming, like why not fund someone else's venture? Why not become that silent partner? Why not be, the person that's going to help support that business and get some equity in the business? So as the business grows, you created another source of income for yourself. Like, why not do that? Like, let's stop the rhetoric, right? Let's stop acting like everybody has the grit to be an entrepreneur. Like, everybody doesn't have it. Because the truth of the matter, even now, as somebody who works for himself, like I literally, like, I drove up here. My wife would tell you I had to keep opening the windows, right? Because I've been up since 3 a.m. And so driving here from New York, I get tired. I'm like, listen, you're right. Like, you don't get a lot of sleep. Sleep is not a luxury that you get as an entrepreneur, because if somebody emails you even on a Sunday, right, and somebody is talking some business, you need to make sure there really aren't any hours. And so, it takes a little bit of craziness, but it also takes a certain type of person to become an entrepreneur. It does get easier, though, I will say that, because as in the beginning, as you're grinding as an entrepreneur, you start making some money, you can then start hiring people to do certain things, and there's some advantages to it, but definitely, if you have a 9-to-5, don't necessarily think that you automatically have to leave the 9-to-5. Use that as an opportunity to fully plan out what you need to do. Prove your concept as an entrepreneur, because a lot of times people have these great ideas that's great to them, but there's no customers who think it's a great idea, right? So prove the concept. Find some customers. Find some people who say, yes, this is a great idea. Find some people who are willing to pay you. Do a marketing plan. Do a business plan. Understand, is this business a viable business? And then once you are able to know that it's a viable business, then you start to decide whether it's a path you want to take or not.
I love it. Proof of concept.
Yeah.
So, all right. You ended up writing the 444 book.
Yes.
Was that your most successful book? Has that been your
without a doubt. Without
really?
A shadow of a doubt. And it came out this January.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us, like, what was the whole mindset behind it? Like, how did you get inspired to do it?
Man, you remember during the VMAs when Alicia Keys and Jay-Z was on stage, and then Lil Mama just got the vibe and was like, yo, I'm standing on stage? that sums it up right there. That's it. That was it. That was it.
Listening to the album, he was like,
that was it. I jumped on stage. I was like, oh, New York. I was like, that's it. I jumped on stage. That's the concept.
Yo, that is hilarious.
You know what I'm saying? No, you know what it was? Like, I've been listening to Jay-Z since I was a teenager, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm from Harlem, right? And so if you know about Harlem, it's like the home of the hustlers, right? Rich, Poe, Kevin Childs, like all these major drug dealers who, are hustlers. But besides the drug dealers, we hustle. Like, that's what we do, right? We figure out how to hustle. And so when Jay-Z came out, it was refreshing, because prior to Jay-Z, if you really think about New York rap or East Coast rap, it was like, dirty, grimy stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had Wu-Tang, no disrespect, but you had Wu-Tang, you had Mobb Deep, you had the dirty, grimy, I stick you up and I hate your guts and I hope your mother died, like all that, But like,
so your butthole closed and keep feeding
feeding you, right? You had that type of stuff. But like, for the get money guys, like the guys who like, nah, I'm good, like, you know what I mean, like, we want to get money, like, where's the hustler talk, right? And so when Jay came out, it was like, there wasn't another hustler talk since Big Daddy Kane. Like, he was the guy, and there was a big gap until Jay came. Mm-hmm. And so I've always been excited about Jay-Z, and he's always dropped what I like to call Hovanomics, right? That, what I mean? I'm about to trademark that.
They're going to sue the crap out of you.
Right? But he always drops Hovanomics, where he's dropping, financial tips within his lyrics, but he couldn't be intentional about it, right? Truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense, but I did 5 mil. I can't rhyme like common sense, right? And so he couldn't really be blatant about it, because he had to talk about the cars, the whips, and, all big pimping and all that stuff. But even within that, he was dropping some financial bars. But he's always been influential. And so when he tells you, yo, Range Rovers, don't drive a 4.0. You got to drive a 4.6. Even if you didn't have a license, you were like clowning people like, yo, he got a 4.0. You're like, bro, you can't even drive. You can't even afford a 4.0. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? When he told you, yo, stop wearing jerseys, wear button-ups. You got the hardest dudes in America who ain't never put on a button-up before in their life They're like, nah, fam, I'm not doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not doing this button up. And so, obviously Jay-Z has been somebody who's very influential to the culture, period. To the, not just the rap culture, but to the world, right? And so when 444 came out, I didn't get past number 2. I didn't get past Story of OJ. Because when he was like, yo, financial freedom, my only hope, I was like, oh, Lord. Right? When he starts saying, yo, you know what's better than strip club? Credit. I'm like, credit? What the FICO? Yo! Right? Like, I'm like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then so he started talking about all this stuff, and I kept replaying it. And then eventually I stopped. I was like, all right, I gotta listen to what's left, right? Like what else? Because I just thought that was it. Like, I'm like, yo, he just blessing us a little bit. I'm like, oh, I gotta cherish this moment. But nah, like the whole 80% of the album was about generational wealth, taking chances over advances, starting up your business, like wills, estates. Like, I was like, yo, if this ain't the blueprint for creating generational wealth, like, I don't know what is. And this dude is the most influential person. I said, man, I got to make something happen. And so initially, it didn't even start out as a book. I'm on the speaking circuit, so I travel the country and go to different colleges and speak to college students about money. And I've always been trying to find like cool ways to make it relatable. And I was like, what better way is to take the lessons from 444 and start to teach about it. And so that's what I did. I was traveling. I was going to different colleges. But what I realized is that, the 45-minute workshop wasn't enough. It wasn't doing it justice. And I said, you know what? I'm going to put a book together. And right around, I want to say I started writing like August, right? The album came out June 30th. That's the exact date, at midnight, right? Came out June 30th. And I started writing the book around August. And my goal was to finish the book and put the book out by Christmas, because I was gonna, catch that crowd. At first, so there was so much things happening that I couldn't get it out, and so finally, I missed the Christmas crowd. I was so angry, actually, because I'm like, man, I missed this. I wanted to get people around Christmas time or whatever. But that's why the universe works in your favor. So I'm positioning it this way to let you know that anything that you want in the world, right? The spiritual stuff really works, right? Anything that you want in this world, just put it out there. Don't worry about the how. The universe is going to make a way for you, right?
All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, who are called to his purpose. That's my favorite Bible.
All of it, right? And so I'm beating myself up. Finally, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm going to just put this book out. Like I put all this work in. I put it out January 6th. Lo and behold, I didn't realize that the Grammys was like 3 weeks later, and that January 6th was the opportune time because every media outlet in the world wants to keep Jay-Z's name in the media cycle. And so now I dropped this book. I actually hired like an Instagram influencer to do a commercial for it, and it was really funny, went viral. A lot of the hip hop blogs started hitting me up like, yo, this is a dope idea. Can we do a quick interview? I did an interview with Hip Hop DX, fast shout to Hip Hop DX, and the next day, Billboard picked up the article, and the rest is history. So I'm talking like Billboard picked it up. I mean, if you even just Google 444 book, like I've done every single media outlet for that book since January because it's the Grammys and people are like, oh my God, we want to talk about Jay-Z. Wow, look at this personal finance expert. He put out this book. So Money Magazine, Yahoo Finance.
That's where I first learned about
it.
Yahoo.
Oh my God, it was so many.
Look at this. This is decent.
So many media outlets covered it. Went viral, Source, or hip hop, everybody, right? And to the point where, like I said, my first book came out in 2009, right? And I've done well with books, right? That's why I've written 5. But I ain't gonna tell y'all all my business, but I'm gonna tell you though, when this book, I've sold thousands of copies of this book. Like this book has been phenomenal. It's been really it's done well. And so to the point, right? So just elephant in the room, right? Just in case, because some people might have bought the first edition of the book, right? And the first edition of the book looked like the Jay-Z album, right? And the reason why I was like, ask for forgiveness, not for permission, because I'm like, am I copyright infringement or something like, am I doing that, right? Little Mama, right, jumped on the stage. I was like, yo, right? I jumped on the stage. I was like,
she got blackballed after that.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? She got blackballed. So I jumped on the stage. But before they could kick me off the stage, I was like, wait, hold on. Like, I didn't realize, it was a self-published book. I kind of knew I had, marketing. I knew it was going to do well, but I didn't know how well. And so when I started to see people started associating me with Jay, right? Because one of the things that kind of took it over the top was I did an interview at Tidal, right? And so, the book had made its rounds. I went up to the Duce podcast with Memphis Bleak, Rel Carter, which is Jay-Z's nephew, and Axelrod, who's like the does the stuff for Duce. And it was a great interview. Tidal was promoting it, like, hey, go get it, things of that nature. I had my Rock Nation hat on, you know what I'm saying? Pledge your allegiance, I took the picture in front of the Rock Nation sign, like I was, was lit. But after the interview, a lot of people started asking, like, if Jay wrote the book or if he had something to do with it. And so I got nervous. I was like, man, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want them boys to come after me. Like, this book is successful. And so I decided, like, you know what? I'm playing with fire, so let me change the cover. And so if you have the original cover, fat shout to Nick. You got a collector's edition, right? You got a collector's edition. Hold on to it. Put it in a plastic wrap, because later on when Jay come out with the 10-year anniversary of 444, that book might be worth something. So, yeah.
So okay, I'm going to say this. When I first heard that album, I told anyone around me, I was like, this album is going to change the game. It's going to be very critical for rap, because what Jay essentially did was made it cool to rap conscious.
Yes.
And so I said, it's not going to change like tomorrow. You're going to see a gradual change over time, and then we're going to look up, and all the goofy stuff is going to go away. Yeah. And it's going to be, mark my words, that album changed the game. Yeah. So what I want to know is, what is your favorite principle from that album?
Man, my favorite principle from that album is merrily, merrily eat off of streams. And so, as it's a double entendre, right? So he's talking about Tidal, which is, he's merrily, merrily eating off of streams, Tidal streams. But it's also talking about the multiple streams, right?
The Tidal streams. Okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
He's
like
so clever.
That boy's sick with the pen, right? But he's also he's talking about multiple streams of income, because he has all these different businesses. And as somebody who, I love my freedom, right? And so the reason why I continue to work hard and figure out ways to create multiple streams of income is because I love my freedom. Like, I work from home. I have a 10-year-old daughter now. I have a 3-year-old. My son just turned 3. Very involved in my son's life. My daughter plays ball, and so I played basketball. But my family never, and this is, I might need a therapist for this. My family nobody in my family ever see me play ball. Like, I was good too, right? But I've never, ever, nobody, like my mom, my dad wasn't around, but nobody's ever seen me play basketball. And I'm like, man, like, you got to support your kids when they want to do stuff, right? Because that was the reason why I was like running wild in the streets, and it could have went either way for me. Luckily, it went the right direction. But I said, man, I'm going to support my kids, everything they want to do. And so, my daughter plays ball, never missed a practice, never missed a game. And I love that type of freedom. And so I continue to work hard to be able to have that freedom where, I could just, enjoy my life with my wife, enjoy my kids, travel when I need to travel. And so, the only way you could do that if you're merrily eating off of streams, right? You cannot, under no circumstance, depend on one stream of income if you are looking for financial freedom, which in my definition is time freedom, right? I'm not trading time for money. I don't do that, right? Because money could come and go. I've made a lot of money. I've lost a lot of money. Time, you will never get it back. I don't care what you do. I don't care who you know. I don't care who you connected with. Yo, yesterday is gone. There's nothing you could do for it. And even, right, here's a kicker. Even tomorrow is running from you, right? We put off things trying to get to tomorrow that you'll never ever see. There's not a person living who can say that I've witnessed tomorrow, because even when tomorrow comes, what day is it still?
Today.
It's today again, right? So tomorrow doesn't even want you. Every single day, tomorrow is running from you. And so I'm not willing to trade time for money, because I want to be happy now. I want to be happy today. Like, I know today. I've been with today. I understand today. We had our issues today, but I got through it. And so merrily eat off. I feel like I'm preaching.
That's good. We love it. We love
People
it.
say amen, right? I feel like I'm preaching. Well.
All right. One last question. What's your favorite song?
Man. My favorite song is Family Feud.
Me too.
Family Feud.
I love that song. That song changed my whole life.
It changes. And you know why? Because, like he said this in Story of OJ, financial freedom's our only hope. And I believe that it is our only hope. When you think about what's happening in this country with number 45, I don't say his name, when you realize what's happening in this country, we're at a time where division works for that agenda, right? So if you stay divided, if you allow rhetoric to divide you, and I'm not just talking about black folks, I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about the narrative that's happening right now is dividing everybody, right? And nobody wins when the family feuds. And so we need to understand that now more than ever, we need to stick together. Right? We should not be going against each other. We should be supporting each other. We should be using each other to, get to the next level in life. There is more than enough, right? And we were taught, for whatever reasons, right? And who cares what the reason is? We were taught that it could only be one. We were taught that if there's 2 real estate agents in this building right now, then only 2 could shine, right? But the truth of the matter is there is more than enough. We live in an abundant world, so even from a material perspective or a human perspective, we live in an abundant world. But even from a spiritual perspective, whatever you believe in, God, the universe, Allah, Buddha, whatever you believe in, abundance is your birthright.
Right.
And so if you're walking thinking that you're not, that you don't have abundance, then of course you're going to hate on people. Right. Of course you're not going to support people. But what you don't realize is that wealth builds wealth, meaning there's a universal law. The more you give, the more you get. And so I want to help people. I continue to help people. And we need to understand nobody wins when the family feuds. The more you support your brother and sister, the more you support them and help them get what they want out of life, the more, and it might not even come back from them. The universe, God, is going to give you what you need because you're demonstrating that I believe that abundance is my birthright. And so if I'm abundant, I'm not going to be holding back. If I'm abundant, I already got it. I don't have to physically see it or physically feel it to know that I got it. If I'm abundant, I know I got it already. I'm not thinking about, if I do this, what's going to know? Because I know where my source is, right? And so knowing your source, family feud. Nobody wins in the family feuds.
Ash, I love it. That's my favorite song too.
Yes.
So, okay, why don't you tell everyone what is the next things you got coming up?
So.
Yes. You about to make an announcement.
So listen, I got another book. I don't know if y'all ready for it. I'm not going to tell you the title yet, but I'm going to write a Kanye book.
Yes.
See, I didn't know, right? So I'm not going to tell you what angle it is because it might, you know what I'm saying? Like some people might be like, yeah, some people like, yo, you crazy. But I promise you, I'm not even going to promise you nothing because I don't even know how people are going to receive it. But I think that it's important. This one is very important as well. I think what Kanye is doing, whether people understand it or not, I think it's needed. I think it's necessary. And I just want to explain why it's necessary. Some people may agree with me and say, you know what, yes, it's necessary. Some people might be like, no, it's not necessary. But I'm writing a Kanye book, like literally, and hopefully the formula works again, right? I'm gonna time it, but this time I don't care about his cover. Like I'm gonna do something different, so I don't have to switch out covers. But I'm gonna time it. Hopefully I can finish it by the time his album comes out, and I can sort of like do the whole piggyback marketing thing again. But I think this one is. So that's the next thing that I have going on. Kanye book.
I can't wait to read
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I have a very strong opinion about
Yeah,
Kanye.
yeah, yeah.
Very strong.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Why don't
Thank
you
you.
tell everybody where they can connect with you and get your books and everything?
Yes, so make sure you go to my website, iamashcash.com. You can follow me everywhere on social media. I made it easy. It's I am Ash Cash. So that's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And check out the book. Go, and I made it that easy too. Go to the444book.com and it takes you straight to amazon.com where you can purchase the book.
I love it.
Oh, and the audio version is coming out
Yay.
too. I'm waiting for the approvals, the powers that be at audible.com and iTunes to approve it, but I'm finished with that.
Oh,
and
you recorded it already?
Yeah, it's done.
Yes, that's the hard part.
Yeah, it's done. It's out. It's going through the review process, so hopefully y'all can pick up the audio copy as well.
Yes, I love it.
Yes.
Please, please, please make sure you support. Thank you, Ash.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. That is for you. Thank you. All right, guys. This was awesome.